I do want to get back to this breaking news that we have been following all throughout the morning, coming in out of the Middle East. 4 hostages held for more than 8 months in Gaza have now been rescued. The Israel Defense Forces saying a short time ago that the 4 were rescued from 2 separate locations in a special operation conducted alongside the Israel Security Agency and Israel Police. IDF spokesman Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari saying the 4 were held in the heart of Nuseirat after being abducted by Hamas from the Nova Music Festival back on October 7th. Hagari saying all 4 have been transferred to Sheba Hospital and they are in, quote, good medical condition. Do want to talk more about this and the latest developments here on the war. So let's bring in Clifford May, the founder and president of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Thank you so much, as always, for taking the time to be here with us.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
All right, so first off, I do have to ask you a little bit about this breaking news, as that is obviously great news considering over the past several weeks and months we have heard of several hostages that have been confirmed dead. So to hear that 4 of them have been rescued alive and in good condition, what does that say to you? It has to be kind of really inspirational and a happy moment for those families.
That is absolutely true. It has multiple meanings. I'll mention just some. One is we haven't known how many of the hostages were alive or how many hostages could be released alive under any deal. It's telling, I don't know if this has been in the reports, but I've seen credible reports that as the hostages were being taken out, various Hamas members or sympathizers with guns were shooting, hoping to kill the hostages on the way out. But it tells us that there are hostages alive. We haven't known how many. It also, I think, very important, we're seeing the Israeli intelligence services and counterterrorism forces acting the way, frankly, we expected the Israelis to do, which is kind of brilliantly. And one can say that up to now, there have been disappointments. Remember Entebbe when the hostages were released from Uganda. This was that kind of very complex operation. I think it's going to be, yes, the families are happy. I think everybody in Israel and everybody who supports Israel's existence is glad to see Israel prevail against terrorists. Never forget that Hamas purposefully takes hostages and uses Gazan civilians as human shields. These hostages were taken from a very populated area in Gaza, and there were people swarming around. I'm sure civilians got killed. That was what Hamas wants, because human shields, human sacrifice, that's Hamas's strategy for public relations purposes. Very important point in my view.
And I do actually want to take you out to a live image that we have coming in. This is from outside of the hospital there where the hostages are being cared for right now. Once again, they are in good condition, and it looks like there is going to be a news conference at some point soon to provide an update. But does this appear to maybe mean that the IDF and military there in Israel have a little bit more knowledge than we know of as to the whereabouts, the locations of the remaining hostages?
One hopes that's the case. I think it's probably the case. They gather intelligence, but then they find out that you have both terrorists surrounding the hostages and Gazan civilians in another ring around it, and they have to figure out a way to get in to, if possible, save the hostages because their captors will kill them if they can. Complex operations, yes, they probably have more information. Now, a big question that arises, do they know where Yahya Sinwar is? Who is he? He is the Hamas leader in Gaza. We believe that he has been hiding in various tunnels surrounded by the abducted hostages, with civilians walking on top of him somewhere in these tunnels. The Israelis would very much like to know where he is, but killing him is not so easy. If you just shut down the tunnel or pour explosives into the tunnel, you'll kill the hostages around him. That would be very complex. But yes, you're right. This gives hope that the Israelis know more than they're saying. I think that's true, and that they're doing their best to prepare for successful, not failed, hostage rescue missions, and also missions to kill the top leaders of Hamas who have brought about all the death and destruction that we see in Gaza today, as well as in Israel, which is still a country that has been very hard hit by Hamas. I've been to the south. I've seen how they burned the various kibbutzim, the various farming communities. And in the north, people have been evacuated because Hezbollah, another proxy of Iran, another ally of Hamas, continually rockets and bombs the north of Israel, setting forest fires and making it necessary for people to evacuate their homes.
I want to ask you about another development from over the last 24 hours as the leader of the United Nations adding Israel to its annual list of shame, as it's known. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres placing Israel on the list of countries that he deems to have committed, quote, grave violations against children during the conflict. So I do want to kind of get your take on that. What exactly does that say to you, considering we know that the relationship, so to speak, between Israel and the United Nations is kind of strained? It's not a great relationship.
It's worse than that. The UN is a de facto enemy of Israel, has been for a very long time. Keep in mind that Secretary General Guterres signed condolences for the death in a helicopter crash of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi. This is a man who has the deaths of thousands of people, thousands of his own citizens on his shoulders. He was a killer of anybody who opposed or he thought might oppose the revolution in Iran and the government in Iran and then the theocracy in Iran. He was a hanging judge, the butcher of Tehran. So Secretary Guterres signs a book of condolences. He's so sorry about that. But Israel, he can easily do this. Also, he has not acknowledged, but we now know that the main UN agencies in Gaza all this time have been entirely co-opted by Hamas. A lot of their staff was Hamas. Those that were not had to be approved by Hamas. The UN people in Gaza had to know that under the hospitals, Hamas was building control and command headquarters, that guns were being hidden in hospitals, mosques, and schools. In the schools, the UN was teaching, indoctrinating hatred of Israel and hatred of Jews. All this has been going on for a long time. So this is just one more time that Guterres, a socialist from Portugal, is siding with the terrorists, siding with Iran, often siding with China, siding with Putin's Russia, against Israel for sure, often against the United States. American taxpayers pay more than about a quarter of the UN budget, maybe probably a bit more than that. We're paying for an organization that opposes us and our allies, and Secretary Guterres is sort of a shameful figure, in my opinion.
And there have been multiple incidents we've actually reported on over the last week of Hamas terrorists actually trying to infiltrate Israel through the border from Gaza. Is there concern that Hamas is maybe trying to plan another October 7 style attack of some kind? We know that President Biden has said that is not possible. He said that a little more than a week ago, that enough of Hamas has been destroyed that would not be able to happen. But I do kind of want to get your take on that, really just your thoughts overall.
Yeah. So the president said, yeah, they can't do it. They're too decapacitated, Hamas is. And right away, Hamas sort of says, wait a minute, Mr. President, we'll show you we can still do this. And they got close. They didn't succeed. The Israelis foiled them this time. But Hamas has said clearly, unequivocally, our intention is to commit October 7th time and time again, one pogrom after another, until we do what we promised to do. Genocide, the extermination of the Israeli state and the Israeli people. That is what they plan. I'm not concerned that they're going to do it again. I am confident they're going to do it again unless they are completely decapacitated militarily and from a governing point of view. The Israelis to do a great deal more to secure that border. To be honest, they thought that border was secure. I've been at the border fence between Gaza and Israel many times, had it explained to me. It's a high-tech fence. Nothing can get through here. A sparrow lands on it. We've got drones in the air. We've got helicopters up there. They relied on technology rather than humans. They did a lot of things wrong. I don't think they'll do it again. I think there's likely to be a demilitarized zone on the Gazan side of that border, making it harder for people to walk through there and try to attack Israelis. The Hamas has tried to get tunnels under the fence. The Israelis foiled that. They didn't envision the low-tech solution that Gaza came up with to penetrate that fence, including bulldozers, including hang gliders or motorized hang gliders, including wire cutters and explosives. The Israelis made some big mistakes. I think they will learn from it, and they will do everything they can to secure themselves and hope that President Biden doesn't tell them, no, you can't make yourself safe from Hamas, which has ruled Gaza since 2007. And let me just say, so people understand this, people say that Gaza was occupied. Every last Israeli, every last Jew, every last synagogue, every last cemetery was removed in 2005. This was unoccupied. Gaza was the government there, de facto, recognized and supported by the UN and by a huge amount of money from Western taxpayers. And meanwhile, they were building up an arsenal, most of it coming in from Egypt, which was supposed to be at peace with Israel. Egypt, which was supposed to be an American ally. They were letting smuggling go through in very elaborate tunnels from Egypt under the Rafah, under the Philadelphia crossing, which is next to Rafah, and into this chain. It's not just tunnels. It's an underground city. It's a fortress. It costs billions of dollars. What could have been done with that money in Gaza to make that a nice Mediterranean port like they have Mediterranean ports and resorts in France over this time? But that's not what Hamas wanted. Hamas wanted exactly what you see now, rubble, as long as Israel and Jews can be blamed on it. That's Hamas's strategy. Anybody who doesn't see that, it's either not very smart or simply closing his eyes.
And before I let you go, I do want to ask you one last question here about the situation in the north, because we know that that is escalating. We have seen things intensify over the past several weeks here. So my question for you, do you see an actual full-scale war happening between Israel and Hezbollah, and how would that differ from what we're seeing right now?
Very good question. Of course, you're right. I think a war between Israel and Hezbollah, which is the terrorist group that answers to Ayatollah Khamenei in Tehran. I think, and Hezbollah is sort of their foreign legion in Lebanon, often in places like Syria too. I think such a war is very likely at this point. As you note, Hezbollah has been hitting the north of Israel. Multiple cities and towns and villages have been evacuated. Tens of thousands of Israelis can't go home. Big forest fires, while I was there a week ago, have been set by Hezbollah by rocketing the forest areas that are now dry and already hot in this season. The Israelis will have to do something. It will be very different. Why? Because Hezbollah is a more sophisticated military even than Hamas, and perhaps most importantly, has something like 150,000 missiles and rockets pointing at Israel, some percentage of which are precision guided. There is a real possibility that if a war breaks out with Hezbollah and Israel, you will have rockets hitting Tel Aviv. You will have rockets hitting Jerusalem and other parts of the country. You will have the whole country will be at risk. They'll do their best to knock those down, but they could be overwhelmed. And meanwhile, Lebanon which is already a failing state, largely thanks to Hezbollah, it will be devastated in a way that I will be long gone before Lebanon comes back if this happens. People in Lebanon know this. Know that even Beirut is likely to get hit because there are rockets hidden there. Rockets will be hidden in mosques. Rockets are hidden in schools and other facilities. Among the reasons is because Hezbollah sees, hey, Hamas gets away with this. If we hide our missiles in schools and the Israelis hit the schools, we can say, oh, the humanity, look what those Israelis are doing to us. And you'll hear the UN say, oh, it's just terrible, they can't do that. So if this war breaks out, and it would be a terrible war, watch for it to break out between now and September if Hamas doesn't back down. Why September? Because Israel cannot allow the nation to shrink. It's already a tiny country, about the size of New Jersey. Those people want to go back to their homes, and they want their kids to go to their own schools. And I think for the rest of this summer is a very perilous time for Israel. And by the way, for the people of Lebanon who do not want a war with Israel, there's no reason for it. It's in any way that you cannot say it's in Lebanon's benefit for Hezbollah at the behest of Tehran to now go to war with Israel.
All right. Clifford May there, founder of the Foundation for Defensive Democracies. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today. Anything else you want to add about any of this before I let you go?
Oh, we could talk about this for hours, and I'm pleased to do so. You know, I did spend a little over a week in Israel from the south near the border near Gaza. It's to see where the Noa Music Festival was, all these young people out there for peace and love and singing and dancing, and then suddenly they're slaughtered, they're raped, they're butchered. It's still, I mean, it's a killing field. When you see it, it's moving because you have portraits, pictures in the sand of all these people, hundreds of people who were killed. I think the country has been traumatized, but I think they're left to right. They believe that they cannot allow Hamas to get back in power. They thought Hamas was the least of their enemies, Hezbollah more so, the Islamic Republic of Iran even more so. I think a lesson has been learned about complacency and about conceptio. I'll tell you in 1 second what conceptio is. It's the idea, this Israeli word, for how you see the situation, misreading the situation. The Israelis thought that Hamas really wanted better life for people in Gaza. They thought that Hamas was grateful that 17,000 Gazans were leaving Gaza every day for good jobs in Israel and agriculture, making more money than they could make in Gaza. The Israelis said, we'll make it 30,000 as long as things stay calm. Their conception was, that's what Hamas wants. They don't want to go to war with us. They were wrong. I would also argue that American analysts now need to look at the various conceptia we have regarding Iran, regarding the People's Republic of China, regarding Putin's Russia, all of whom are in an alliance, and make sure we're not underestimating them. I think we are. After D-Day, we remember the things that Reagan, not only what Reagan said, but that Reagan did. He understood that we were fighting a very formidable enemy. The enemies we have now are more formidable. And so in terms of military budget, in terms of the size of the Navy, in terms of understanding that we had a Cold War to fight, and the best way to fight it was not to let it get hot, and that meant to have deterrence. Deterrence means your enemies do not believe a fight with you would be a fair fight. They know they'd lose. That's where we need to go. And I don't think that's where this administration is going at this moment. And I hope they learn from this experience. Don't see evidence of it yet, but I remain hopeful, not confident.
All right. Thank you so much, as always, for taking the time to join us and help break all this down. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. See you anytime.
And I do want to take you back out to this post here coming in from the IDF, as we now know that 4 of the hostages have been rescued in a special operation by the IDF. Also involved, the ISA and the Israel police. These were 2 separate locations after they were kidnapped by Hamas from the Nova Music Festival.